So one of my favorite Dalai Lama quotes about this is, I don't know why people like me. Maybe it's because I value compassion. I can't claim to always practice it, but I do value it. And he put all joking aside and went on to say that when at some point in our lives we meet a real tragedy, which could happen to any one of us, we can react in two ways. Obviously, we can lose hope, let ourselves slip into discouragement, into alcohol or drugs or unending sadness. Or else we can wake ourselves up, discover in ourselves an energy that was hidden there, and act with genuine clarity and compassion. Joy and sorrow, birth and death are the dance of existence throughout which our awakened consciousness can shine. So there's sort of a famous old saying from a monk named Thich Nhat Hanh, and his saying is, no mud, no lotus, meaning you have to have, we have to all have sadness and tragedy in our lives to appreciate the good parts of our lives. Besides that, it feels really great to do something nice for other people. Compassion helps us fundamentally stop feeling like solitary agents in the world, like when you're stuck in traffic and everybody else is the traffic, not you, and start feeling like we're part of a community. But there's a twist to this in that when we see other people hurting, we're naturally compassionate. But when we see ourselves, we tend to think we deserve it. So because of this, Kristen Neff, a teacher at my alma mater, UT Austin, has spent years studying self-compassion. And here's what she has to say about it. Let's say you're walking down the street and there's a homeless woman at the side of the road. Now, let's face it, some days we have compassion for her, and some days we may not have compassion for her. We have to notice her to start having compassion, but more than that, we have to notice something about her, and that's her suffering. The reality is we often don't want to take in suffering. Our natural tendency when suffering appears is to push it away, to avoid it. So really the first step of having compassion for this woman is to open to and be aware without resistance the fact that she's suffering. Next comes the thought, what is the difference between compassion and pity? Think about it. We all love to get compassion of people, but we hate to be pitied. And what distinguishes compassion from pity in the sense of common humanity? You know, it's there, but for the grace of God go I, being able to see yourself in another person. So if you look down on the woman or feel sorry for her, that's pity. But if you look at her and wonder how her life led to this point, how maybe you could be in that situation under a different set of circumstances, that is compassion. Now, what happens with self-compassion is that instead of saying, oh, this is terrible, it's the worst thing in the world, we get balance. I'm suffering, I'm taking that in, but I don't have to be overwhelmed by the storyline of the suffering. The first step to be self-compassionate is to be mindful of our pain without running away with it or getting carried away with it. And the second bit is to have a kind response. If you ask people how they treat themselves when they're having a hard time or they fail or they make a mistake versus how they treat their friends, most people treat themselves radically differently. Though the idea with self-compassion is we give ourselves the same kindness we would give to others we cared about, to be soothing and comforting, to be an ally, to be a friend, to not cut yourself down or belittle yourself or pull the rug underneath yourself, to being mean, to be supportive and protective. So we're going to do 3 steps of compassion today, and then we're going to do the 3 steps of forgiveness. We're going to start with self-forgiveness. So you need to think of something you'd like to forgive yourself for. We're then going to remember something that we said or did to someone and ask them to forgive us. And finally, we have to remember someone we have not forgiven and try to do that. So before we begin, you need to come up with something you want to forgive yourself about, something you want someone else to forgive you for, and someone you want to forgive. The forgiveness that we're going to be doing, and the sort of Buddhist idea about it, is not really about justice or absolution or redemption, and it doesn't necessarily include forgetting. You can forgive and still say never again having anything more to do with the person who did you wrong. In fact, the forgiveness we're doing doesn't really have much to do with the other person at all. It's about you. It means getting yourself to a position where you can let down the burden of your wrong feelings for the rest of your life. It lets you escape mulling over the pain someone has caused you and the anger and sense of injustice that goes along with it. Without forgiveness, we're chained to the past, but maybe with enough forgiveness, we can forget. So let's get started. Let's close our eyes and think of someone close to you who you dearly and truly love. Picture them in detail and feel your natural caring for them. Notice how you hold them in your heart. Now let yourself think about their measures of sorrows, their suffering in life. Feel how your heart opens when you think about these things, how you want to give them comfort, to share in their pain. Now think about yourself. Think of yourself with the same caring and feeling you thought of your loved one. Think of the measures of sorrows you carry. Now remember back to a point in your life where someone took care of you, someone fed and nurtured you. Try to remember what it was like to be held and protected, safe, calm, and comforted. Now try to remember when you felt holding a child, your own or a niece or a nephew or the child of a close friend. Feel the flood of protectiveness, the power of the bonding hormones that were released when you embraced a living being and held them. Perhaps it's the experience of the unconditional love from a pet who welcomes us home with joy. Remember how it feels to hold them, stroke them, and feel their warmth against your skin. Take a few deep breaths and allow that moment of nurturing, safety, and protection to arise as though you are there right now. You might feel some grief or some loss, and that's okay. Let those feelings go and return to that moment when you are completely taken care of. Feel the warmth of that other person who took care of you. Feel the air, wind on your skin. Feel the sounds of voices or of nature. Remember or imagine what you saw. Let that moment take over and engulf you in a deep sense of protection, of care, calm, and safety. Breathe and rest in this feeling of being loved and at peace. Now imagine it's one of those mornings where you wake up in a great mood and your heart's open to the world, and that before starting the day, you decide that you're going to uncover the inner nobility of three people. Try to imagine an acquaintance, a neighbor, a family member, a colleague at work, someone who works in your building, a bank teller, a checkout clerk, just one of the many people you'll bump into on your life, on your day to day. And imagine that you're seeing a fundamentally noble being deep inside him or her. Focus your mind to look for the good, almost like a scavenger hunt, while at the same time offering others the gift of being seen with kindness. Because what seeing the nobility or seeing the goodness does is improve your relations and interactions with people while also bringing out the best in them. Begin by slowing down. Spend a few moments being curious about the good qualities in other people. Don't imagine you are looking through rose-colored glasses. Instead, pretend you are taking off the smog-colored glasses of being critical and negative and seeing the facts as they really are. Even if it's not initially evident, try to see positive intentions. A toddler throwing mashed potatoes maybe wants some fun. A teenager dripping in attitude maybe wants recognition and respect. A partner who's avoiding housework maybe wants relaxation. Try to see the good intentions in the people around you. In particular, sense the longing to be happy in the heart of every person. Take in their abilities, their efficiency, their professionalism, their problem solving, their talents. See if you can find positive character traits like determination, generosity, kindness, patience, energy, grit, honesty, fairness, or compassion. Now imagine you're interacting with each of these people while maintaining this intention in your heart. Notice how this perception affects your interaction with them. Notice how it affects you, how it affects your work and your home life. Finally, recognize that the good you see in others is also in you. You couldn't see that good if you did not have an inkling of what it was. You too have positive intentions, real abilities, and virtues of mind and heart. These qualities are a fact, as much as a fact as the chair you're sitting on. Take a moment to let that truth sink in. You don't need a halo to be a truly good person. You already are a truly good person. So if you're in a good spot right now, just stay there. But if you need to take a little break, if you'd like to stretch or get into a better position or take some deep breaths, then now's the time to do that. If you've forgotten, inhale through the nose, filling the lungs all the way up on a count of 5. And exhale very slowly through pursed lips, like blowing up a balloon for a count of 8. When you finish exhaling, try and memorize that sense of total relaxation and try to keep that total relaxation going that you feel on the next inhales and exhales. Now stop breathing self-consciously and let your breath go by itself, letting your mind relax completely and let your breath breathe your body. Starting at the top of your head, let your awareness scan through your body, going all the way down to the tips of your fingers and your toes. Whenever possible, soften and release any obvious areas of physical tension or strain, frequently your neck, your shoulders, and your lower back. Now imagine that you're resting in a perfectly shaped hammock on a beautiful early summer day. The temperature is just right. The sun shines, and then the clouds cover and give you some shade, and then the sun returns. Everything you needed to do that day is already finished. Now it's just time for yourself to enjoy the feeling of being alive, the beauty of this day just as it is, feeling your breath and your heartbeat in your body. Now, this moment right now, and this moment right now. The joy of being here right now. The joy of being right here right now. Imagine your body is growing heavier and heavier, being pulled by a mighty force of gravity, making you so heavy you can barely move. And when you inhale, think deep sleep. And when you exhale, think, I feel so good. Now think about your breath. Where in this process is your attention naturally focused? Is it on the coolness you feel in your nostrils when you inhale, or the warmth on the upper lip when you exhale? Can you feel a swirling, tingling in the back of the throat, the rise and fall of your chest or belly? Or is it the sensation of the entire respiratory system? Pick where your attention naturally goes and focus your whole body on it. Let that be your anchor for today. If it's your nose, try and push the whole of your body into your nose and make your brain and body go completely numb, except for the focus on your breath. Now bring to mind a moment when you were madly in love, walking on air, full of hope, full of life, completely happy and blissful. It could be about a romance, a teenage crush on a musician or an actor, about a professional achievement, about getting married, about giving birth. It could be the love you have for a child or a pet. Remember the exact circumstance of that moment, all the details of bliss, ecstasy, and elation that you can remember. Now see if you could find exactly on your body where this sensation rests. It may be around your eyes, around your mouth, around your chest. Keep going over these memories and sensations until it feels you're rising into the air. Memorize this sensation so that anytime in the future you can return to bliss, you can remain in love and joy. Now think of something that you have felt negatively about yourself for some time, something you judge yourself for, something you hate about yourself, something that fills you with shame or regret, something you hold against yourself. Really feel how awful this behavior is, how shameful, what a disappointment you are as a human being that you can't fix such a little fault. And now think of yourself split in half. On the one side is the judger, the hater, the complainer, who will call the prosecutor. On the other side is the judge, the hated, the criticized, the shameful, who will call the accused. After letting yourself really feel the anger and the hurt of your self criticism, imagine one of your closest friends talking to you about this. What would he or she say about your feelings and your criticisms? Now let your two sides, the prosecutor and the accused, look at each other. Let the accused ask the prosecutor for forgiveness. He or she might say, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and this is mine. Every human being has flaws, and this is mine. You might say, I'm doing the best that I can. You might say, please accept me as I am. Please be compassionate to me. Please help ease my pain and my sorrow. Please forgive me. Now think of someone you are no longer friendly with, maybe someone you don't even speak to anymore, an ex-friend or an ex-partner, and let's call this person the X. And let's begin by thinking of how you might have hurt the X. Think of the things you've done that harmed the relationship. Could you have been more understanding, more patient, better at communicating, easier going about their troubles and their flaws? Maybe you have betrayed them or abandoned them or caused suffering knowingly or caused suffering unknowingly out of your own pain, your own fear, or your own anger. Now you might say, I wish I could have been a better friend or partner. I'm sorry I was young and didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry I didn't perceive and understand what you were going through. Please forgive me. Now remember the pain that this ex caused you. When thinking of someone you aren't ready to forgive, you can always ask yourself, what would you need to feel to move forward if you are no longer hurt and angry? Because really, when we forgive, it's not for justice. It's not for saying that someone else gets off scot-free. It's to reduce our own anger and sorrow, to replace it with a form of acceptance, to try to find grace. Instead of chewing the cud over the things others have done that have hurt us, we try to release the grip of suffering, try to let go of our blame versions of this history, try to find the raw emotion that the blame has been camouflaging. In some situations, it may be impossible to forgive right now because you need to recover first from the sorrow and the pain somewhat. But you can try to determine at this point what things can't be forgiven and what things could be. Pretend you are sitting across from the ex. Say what happened between the two of you from your perspective, and then describe what happened from his or her point of view. Remember the story of walking in a forest and coming across a dog. You start to come closer, getting ready to pet it. Then the dog barks and snarls, so you turn afraid and angry. You then see that the dog's leg is caught in a trap. Think of the ex as being like that dog without condoning him or her or invalidating your own feelings. Try to empathize with this other person. Remember that everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and these are theirs. Remember that all human beings have flaws, and these are theirs. As hard as it may be, try to imagine that the ex is doing the best he or she can. Imagine that no matter how different you wish they were, no matter how much you wanted them to change, can you accept them as they are? Whether that answer is yes or no, can you say heartfelt, I hope that your pain and sorrow are eased. I hope that you can find peace, and I forgive you.